WLNS is here for you with 6 News at noon.
Winter weather continues to wreak havoc on mid-Michigan, with the snow and cold creating slippery and dangerous driving conditions. The weather is still our top story at noon. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Megan Baselli. Meteorologist Kendall Wilson is joining me right off the top. And as two people who drove here today, we can confirm the roads are pretty treacherous. Our newsroom has been getting reports of slide-offs and spin-outs all morning. So let's turn things over to Kendall right away to find out how the roads are looking right now. What do we got?
So Megan, conditions are beginning to improve, but as you mentioned, we still have some very hazardous driving conditions across mid-Michigan this afternoon. Traffic Tracker is a major improvement compared to what it was showing right around an hour ago. But notice we still have multiple slowdowns, an accident, and a road closure to talk about in and around the Lansing area. We're not only concerned with some of the slick conditions that we are seeing, but also because this is such a fine and fluffy snow, it is reducing visibility across the area, and it will continue to do so for right around the next hour or so. Satellite and radar shows the edge of that system snow beginning to make its way into Eaton and Clinton County. So again, snow showers will last for right around 1 or 2 more hours before we start to dry things out, and then we will start to see some pretty nice improvements across the area, not only in terms of traffic, but also our temperatures as well. I'll have some more details for you coming up in just a bit.
Kendall, thank you. President Donald Trump now considering deploying as many as 10,000 active duty service members to the southern border. It's part of his crackdown on illegal immigration and comes as a Texas congressman prepares legislation that would get rid of birthright citizenship for children born to undocumented migrants. Natalie Brand is here for you now with the latest from Washington.
CBS News has learned the Trump administration is considering sending as many as 10,000 U.S. troops to the southern border and potentially using military bases to hold migrants awaiting deportation. The Pentagon has already said around 1,500 troops have begun to deploy to help secure the U.S.-Mexico border.
This was a gross miscarriage of common sense to allow people to come in.
Stepped-up enforcement operations across the country have led to nearly 500 undocumented migrant arrests.
And they will be sent home. And those flights are already underway this morning.
Community leaders are warning migrants to be prepared.
If you are deported, you should already have paperwork set so we know where your children need to go. You need to have those legal documents, those powers of attorneys.
A federal judge in Seattle hears arguments today on lawsuits challenging President Trump's executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship. While here on Capitol Hill, Trump allies are working to double down with new legislation.
His historic executive order to end birthright citizenship marks a critical step forward, and now with the Birthright Citizenship Act of 2025, we can solidify these reforms into lasting law.
Attorneys general from more than 20 states suing to block changing birthright citizenship argue it's settled law protected by the Constitution's 14th Amendment. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Meanwhile, a federal judge is set to hear the first arguments in a multi-state lawsuit seeking to block the president's executive order, ending the constitutional guarantee of birthright citizenship, regardless of the parent's immigration status. The judge scheduled today's hearing to consider the request from Arizona, Illinois, Oregon, and Washington. The lawsuit, filed in Seattle, is one of at least 5 brought by a total of 22 states, including Michigan, and a number of immigrant rights groups around the country. Here in Michigan, workers are poised to see minimum wage increases and guaranteed paid sick leave starting next month. However, the state's Republican-led legislature is working to change those laws before they take effect. Lawmakers proposed a plan to raise minimum wage but keep the tipped credit for restaurant workers. It also would exempt many businesses from a sick leave mandate. Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic will have the latest on this proposal tonight in our evening shows. The Michigan Human Trafficking Commission kicked off its first meeting of 2025. In total, 6 meetings are scheduled throughout this year, and the commission says these meetings will help provide resources and information about human trafficking. All of these meetings will take place at the Williams Building on Ottawa Street in Lansing and will be available online. The commission is inviting human trafficking survivors, advocacy groups, law enforcement partners, and community members to join. Each meeting starts at noon and is scheduled to run until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The rest of the meeting dates are on your screen. Jobless claims ticked up a bit last week, but the total number of Americans collecting unemployment benefits rose to its highest level in more than 3 years. Applications for jobless benefits rose by 6,000 to 223,000 for the week ending January 18th. That's higher than the 219,000 new applications analysts expected. Meanwhile, the total number of Americans receiving unemployment benefits for the week ending January 11th climbed by 46,000 to 1.9 million. That's the most since November 2021. And the 4-week average of claims, which evens out some of the weekly ups and downs, inched up by 750 to 213,500.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Weather First, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Satellite and radar continues to show light to moderate snow showers falling across mid-Michigan, but system snow is beginning to taper off across the area, and we're already beginning to dry things out for areas west of US 127, at least here in mid-Michigan. Notice we still do have a couple of lake effect snow showers along the lakeshore, so even though our system snow will come to an end within the next 1 to 2 hours, still the chance for a few lake effect snow flurries as we go throughout this afternoon. System snow will completely exit by the time we hit 1-2 o'clock. After that, as I mentioned, a few isolated flurries still will be possible across the area, but the worst of the impacts will be well off to our east. We dry things out, mostly cloudy conditions in the forecast overnight tonight and as we move throughout our Friday as well. Now, as we move into the weekend, still going to have a lot of cloud cover in place, but by Saturday morning, there is going to be a very weak disturbance in the atmosphere that rides to our north. As a result, we could see a couple of isolated flurries across mid-Michigan, but I don't think it'll bring anything significant in terms of impacts or accumulations based on what our current computer models are showing. In fact, most of the weekend actually going to end up being dry, but we're still going to have a lot of cloud cover in place across the area. Now, from the lake effect snow flurries that we still have in the forecast this afternoon, we'll pick up an additional trace amount, possibly as much as ½ an inch of snow by the time we finish off our Thursday. Even though we are going to be tapering off the snow this afternoon, still need to make sure that we are extra cautious on the roadways. Now, the good news, even though we are still dealing with some pretty treacherous driving conditions, we are seeing some major improvements in terms of our temperatures across the area. Our current readings anywhere between 13 to 20 degrees warmer compared to where we were this same time yesterday. We're 16 degrees warmer in Jackson and Howell, 15 degrees warmer off to our north in Mount Pleasant. That puts our temperatures here in Lansing at least in the low 20s, but of course we still do have some fairly breezy conditions. Current winds 13 miles per hour, so it does still keep our wind chill temperatures in the single digits, but they are above zero, a major improvement compared to where we were yesterday afternoon. We're at 22 degrees in Grand Ledge. You can see visibility still slightly reduced in the background of a couple of our Skyview cameras. We're at 22 degrees in Jackson, winds currently out of the west-southwest, and that's what's going to help to continue to usher in that warmer air mass as we go throughout the rest of our Thursday, and even as we move into our Friday, we'll start to see some gradual temperature improvements across the area. We're at 23 degrees in Hillsdale, a couple of light snow showers still falling across the area, a peak wind gust of 12 miles per hour. We'll rise a few more degrees to high temperatures in the mid to low 20s across the area. Again, we dry things out overnight tonight, holding on to mostly cloudy conditions, but our overnight lows falling down to 8 degrees across the area. Good news is it comes along with those lighter wind speeds. 6-day forecast shows a very brief drop in terms of our temperatures by tomorrow, a high of only 20 degrees in the forecast. And then we have all of that cloud cover just in time for the weekend, which will help to keep our temperatures fairly moderate. We have highs in the mid to upper 20s. Another chance for snow as we move into early next week, but that snow going to come along with highs in the upper 20s to low 30s. So even though we are seeing some improvements, just make sure you take it extra careful for the rest of the day.
Definitely. All right, Kendall, thank you. Well, check this one out. A freighter ship is stuck in ice right now on the Buffalo River near the Lake Erie shoreline. The vessel was returning to Michigan after completing a routine rock salt delivery when it got stuck in the thick ice. The U.S. Coast Guard says it's common this time of year, especially with these frigid temperatures. It happened just before noon yesterday, and another ship left Erie, Pennsylvania around 8 o'clock this morning to go try to cut the ice and help out. The Coast Guard said today there aren't any concerns regarding the safety of the crew. Coming up at noon, there's another fire emergency in Los Angeles County. We'll have the latest on the effort to put out the flames and a new potential hazard. So keep it right here, 6 News at noon. We'll be right back.